day that they released me from jail, I was back in my old lifestyle, using drugs and alcohol. So from 1998 to 2001, the addiction manifested some more, and more consequences, more compromises. This time I was falling into a real dark world of sexual perversion, pornography, and I was starting to compromise my morals and beliefs and values beyond my imagination. In 2001, I had shown up at my parents' house once again, because we always come back to the ones who we love the most. In addiction, we hurt the ones we love the most, and we always come back to them, because we know they're the ones that are going to be there for us. And there was a girl that I went to Hill Murray with, and her husband happened to be at my parents' house that day. And I knew when I saw them, I wanted what they had. I was strung out, I was desperate, and I wanted a change in life. And I knew that they knew the Lord. I knew that they were Christians, and they had a great family, and they were giving, and they had a lot of nice material things because they gave, and they were humble, and they were grateful. And, you know, it wasn't about them, it was about helping others. And they said, "Mark, we want to help you." And I felt a sense of trust that I was desperate, man. I was dying. And I said, "I'll do anything." And they took me to their church. And I remember sitting in the church and people were accepting the Lord in their heart. And I was like, man, these people are phony, man. This is a joke. You know, I still had all the answers. But something compelled me. You see, I was a good con man. I was a good thief, con man, and manipulator. And you can con your parents, you can con your teachers, you can con your boss, you can con your wife or whoever it may be in your life, but you can't con God. He will not be mocked. And I accepted Jesus into my heart. And that day changed my life forever. Forever. To this day. In 2001, May 5th, 2001, my life changed forever. For the first time in my life, I started to get a sense of self-worth back and self-esteem. I started to gain the trust of my parents and my friends back. I was able to hold a job. And I put together a run of sobriety for 11 months. I had never been able in 23 or 20 years to stay sober more than 3 months. I put 11 months of sobriety together, and the old Mark started to kick back in. You think I would have started to learn. I met a woman through my church, and against the advice of my mentors and the people that were ahead of me and my pastor, I got married before I was ready to do so. And 3 months into that marriage, our marriage was starting to fail. The woman that I was married to became pregnant with my child, who's now going on 5 years old. But the marriage fizzled, and I went back to my old ways. This time, however, I went on a suicide mission. I didn't care if I lived or died. I was devastated by the circumstances once again in my life. And in 2002, I fell into this world, man, that I can't tell you the pain and the misery and the humiliation that it brought into my life. And I talked a little bit earlier about compromising your morals and your beliefs and values. I'm going to talk about something that not a lot of people will talk about, and let you know right now, about the true effects of methamphetamine and crack cocaine. Because I feel compelled to let you know the truth. These drugs don't always start out with the profound effects they had in my life, but they will manifest into what happened to me. I can guarantee you that, because I've seen it happen to countless others. I became a very desperate, lonely person on the streets of Minneapolis. I was homeless. I was penniless. And therefore I started to prostitute myself to support my drug habit on the streets of Minneapolis. And I fell into a world of crazy world of perversion, pornography, and just isolation from the real world. Committing crime after crime, running from the law, conning, stealing, manipulating, thieving, whoever I could. And near the end of that 2 years of this run, the law had caught up with me again. By all means, I should have been dead from an overdose, or from whatever else was going on, from the gunshots, because I experienced a lot of those, or from just pure depression and wanting to blow my brains out. And I was sentenced to another treatment, this being my 9th treatment. But this time the judge sent me to a treatment center that wasn't your little cush treatment center up on the lake, or the little comfortable type of setting. They sent me to a treatment center in downtown Minneapolis for pretty much the end of the road for your hardcore addict. It's a behavior modification. And I thought, what's going to be different this time? And if you can see, even after the change in life for 11 months, I made some poor choices that put me right back to where I was. And even in a worse spot. While I was in this treatment center, I thought I had experienced, enough consequences through all the jails, all the lost jobs, and all the relationships, all the humiliation that I caused myself and my family. But I was about to experience a consequence that I thought is unfathomable. Unfathomable to a person like myself. Part of the requirement about being in this treatment was to get a physical. And in September 20th, 2004, I had the ultimate consequence. I went into the doctor's office and he said, Mark, he goes, I want you to sit down. He says, we have a very serious situation. And I said, okay. And I was scared. And he said, Mark, you have AIDS. Wasn't such a tough guy anymore. I was humbled in an instant. I wasn't such a bad you-know-what anymore. All those choices that I made flashed before my eyes. I wasn't invincible. I thought of all the people that tried to direct my life. I remember walking out of HCMC that day, still in treatment, but I had a choice to make that day. See, because there was no more gray area. There was no more chances. It was life or death at that time. And I remember walking out of HCMC, and the bar was a block away. I could see it. That was death. Because I knew if I went there, I was over that night. I would have killed myself that night. And that crossed my mind. The other option, the other choice I had that day is to choose life and to start walking back to that treatment center. I can just tell you this, you don't know how much you need God until God is all you got. And that is all, God is all I had that day. I said, Lord, I remember that touch. I remember when I finally quit lying, conning, and manipulating, when I started being teachable. And I said, Lord, you know what? I said, if I walk back to that treatment center, you better reveal yourself to me. And I started walking. That is the single biggest decision I've ever made in my life.